Hey everyone, welcome to Connect the Dots. I'm Jeremiah Garcia, your host from Guide Dogs of Hawaii. This is a safe space for blind and visually impaired individuals to come together, share experiences, and learn from each other. Today, our guest is aspiring to provide cybersecurity. He went to school at Kapiolani Community College for his associates and West Oahu for his bachelor's. He is currently attending school at Virginia Tech University. He has volunteered at ATRC, worked at Guide Dogs of Hawaii, and at a corporate company's help desk. I want to welcome Ankar Nurikar to Connect the Dots and start off by asking, what inspired you to study cybersecurity?
So I always knew when I was young is that I wanted to be in tech. I think as I went to school and I took courses in my undergrad, you take your prereqs and, you have those courses that just, kind of introduce you to different topics. And, you learn about the industry that you're studying and what you're facing. What career paths you have in the tech field. I guess for me, and I said, cybersecurity looks like a great up and coming field. There's a lot of potential for growth, and of course I was interested in it. It's nothing that I chose per se in the sense that I knew I was going to be going into cybersecurity. I knew I wanted to go into IT, but picking cybersecurity came from learning about the industry through the courses that I took when I was doing my associates and my undergraduate degree. So that's kind of how I got into cybersecurity as even an idea, as a thought process of like, that's something I can get into.
Okay. Was there anything that pulled you into the IT field?
I have been fascinated with technology since I was a kid. Like a lot of blind and low vision um, people, we use technology every day in our lives from childhood. I remember using those big CCTVs with the big, I guess, VA panels with the little gray tree underneath it, and you had the knobs on it. It was all this big contraption, right? That was sitting on a cart or sitting on a desk somewhere in the back of the room. And you put your paper underneath it, and it magnified the 12-point font to, I don't know, 18, 36, 40 font. You can change the colors. To me, that was fascinating. Just the way technology, I guess, evolved. You started with those big panels, and then as I got older, the CCTVs became smaller, and they became just like boom arms, and with a camera attached to it that could, you could sit in the back of the room and you could focus the camera to the whiteboard, and it was connected to an external monitor or even your laptop at that time. Yeah, I had a laptop, and so just seeing the evolution of how technology was for me as growing up and how it helped me in school, even from just being able to read books through audiobooks, and the way that technology, we started with tapes to CDs and then to using the reader stream with digital audio, to eventually getting an iPhone, and how all of that was combined, and how you used these and how the technology evolved to help you not only in your personal life, but in your education. And just that idea of how technology evolves and what it can do for people fascinated me. And I wanted to be a part of that industry. I wanted to be a part of that movement. And I wanted to be part of the tech field. I wanted to be on the forefront of technology. And that's something that really interested me.
That makes sense. So you mentioned,
Yeah.
about getting prerequisites and stuff like that in your field. So, what kind
Mhm.
of
Yeah,
schooling and training was required to complete in order to get into this field of work you're in?
I started out going to community college, just like anybody. I didn't go to UH Manoa. Um, I went to I went to KCC. I went to California Community College. I did some prereqs there, just like my English courses, and just your basic classes. And I honestly, the IT field, I said earlier that the IT field was my passion. IT was my passion. Technology was my passion. But when I went, you take your art courses. You have to take some prereqs, and so I really loved new media arts. I got into graphic design as my first path of career choice. I mean, as a degree choice. But can't come to find out I'm not a great artist. I can't draw freehand circles to save my life. So I decided, you know what, maybe the art, becoming a graphic designer isn't my cup of tea. Um, but I still thought that it was cool because even though I wasn't be in IT, I was still using technology to influence people. And I thought, from that artistic angle would be cool. But at the end of the day, we consider it for fun, but as a career choice, maybe not so much for me. So, and then my next one was, um, you know what? And then I wanted to go into becoming a software developer, and so I took some software, courses in community college, of course, and learned how to program and how to, write code and whatnot. And I enjoyed that very much too. Although I found that very interesting, of how you can write code and manipulate hardware and technology to do things for you the way you want it to be done. I think that was really cool. But again, maybe not my cup of tea. I don't want to be sitting at the computer. For me, I wanted technology, and I wanted my field of where I was going. I wanted to be able to help people directly, and I wanted to see the impact that it helped. Now, becoming a software developer and becoming a maybe a web designer or going to a more artistic side, you're still impacting people's life, but you're not seeing the direct impacts of that directly in front of your face. Long term it will help, but you don't see those immediate impacts. And I want to be in the forefront of technology helping somebody right then and right there, and I want to see that change in front of me. And that's how, for me, when I got into tech, um, I thought about all these choices of what courses I wanted to take, um, you know, and how those courses would impact my growth, and widen my knowledge. Um, and so after community college, then I settled on saying, you know what, I want to go into technology and IT. And I found out that KCC was not kind of where I wanted to be because it didn't have the right programs. So that I was looking at. But when I looked, I saw that Honolulu Community College (HCC) actually had a very interesting program. It had a very IT slash cybersecurity focus where it was more of a technical program where it was more hands-on. It was not as abstract because the courses that I was taking at the time at KCC were more book oriented and were more abstract, and you're kind of learning concept. You're learning concepts, but you weren't really implementing concepts. Maybe in a lab environment, or you weren't hands-on with technology. Um, the courses at HCC, which I transferred to as my to finish off my associates, that program there um, was more hands-on and it was more vocational. And for me, I think that was the way I wanted to learn, is more hands-on. Um, and so I finished my associates there. Once I graduated from my associates at HCC, I started going to UH West Oahu. Um, and again, similar concepts. And now there was a lot more book work, a lot more reading, a lot more material, I guess, conceptual courses. Um, a little less hands-on because it's a university versus a vocational school, but still the teachers and the professors that were at UH West Oahu doing my bachelor's still brought relevant um, lab work as well as book work into the classroom, because again, um, the trend here is that the professors are still working in the field. They're still, either working in industry or they run their own businesses, and they bring back the relevant knowledge to the classroom again. So that's kind of how, my education progressed. Um, so, and then I got my bachelor's, and I graduated. And so, that was my undergrad, I guess, experience for me of, for my personal achievement. I wanted to get my undergraduate degree, my bachelor's degree. But I started from the bottom. I got my associates and then my bachelor's. That being said, um, and I landed up on Virginia Tech. So I am currently a senior in Virginia Tech. This is like my second to my last semester as a master's student in Virginia Tech. And so that's kind of what I did. And the great thing about it was everything was online. I didn't have to leave Hawaii right away, but I have the option to.
You had aspiring dreams and goals, but it ends up costing a lot because of college. Were you able to find any assistance programs to help you achieve these goals?
I did get help going to school. Um, a lot of you are DVR clients, and or will become DVR clients when you get into high school. Um, and I was one of those too. I was a DVR client. And Ho'opono helped me out in my undergrad. They um, Ho'opono did pave the way for my success for getting my bachelor's. Going to community college, and then of course getting my bachelor's degree. Um, that's no secret. Ho'opono has done that for many students, not just me. There's many students before me, and the next generation that you're the next generation. So I'm sure some of you will be also, if you apply, if you want to go to school and talk to your counselors, depending on what's happening in the world and whatnot, you can get financial assistance from Ho'opono and from grants. Of course, you have FAFSA, your federal student aid monies. You have different grants you can apply for. So I think that going when you think about going to college, yes, it's a big expense. But as a person with a disability who's visually impaired and blind, we are fortunate to have services in places that will give us grants to pay for school and our books and our technology that we need to become successful. Um, that also being said, Ho'opono is not the only place you can look for grants for financial assistance. I've also gotten grants from other blind organizations within Hawaii um, to also pave the way for my education too. That could be going to That can be going to HEB, going to NFB, um, of Hawaii, HEB of Hawaii, and asking financial assistance from them too, and seeing if they'll give you financial aid for school.
On that note, you went to college for a while, you got your degrees and went to a bunch of classes, but you also mentioned that hands on experience is also important. So, what kind of hands on
Mm-hmm.
experience and like what kind of jobs have you done on top of the schooling that you have?
Right. Yes, hands-on experiences. I did mention that earlier, and it is very important, as you said. Um, the thing with hands-on experiences, you got to put yourself out there, right? Um, just talk to people. It's like, hey, this is what I want to do. Is there any volunteer opportunity for me here? Can I come in a few times a week and maybe just shadow you, or can I volunteer and put in some time to learn what you're doing, or how this industry works? Because I, I think that the first place, and that's how I got started, is volunteering. Um, I started out um, as a technology resource analyst of Hawaii, you know, out of school. That's where I first worked. I started helping out there. I was working part time, while I was still going to college, and I worked there uh, with Barbara, uh, who who's the executive director there. But there, I did that, and then along with that, I do have to mention, I did work for a GDH for a while too. I had to plug that. Jeannie did give me the opportunity to do some IT work for her too. So I did get I did get that opportunity. So I do appreciate GDH giving me that opportunity too. So I have that on my resume. When I was in school for undergrad too, we had to do a practicum. So I had to find a place where to kind of have a semester project or a job. So I had to find a place that would give me a place to do my practicum.
You put in your hours in volunteering and,
Hmm.
you have that experience on your resume, but did your visual impairment cause any adversity in obtaining your position?
Okay. Um, so I think in that regards, I would say that the positions that I got, in the beginning, really, I did not have too much of a challenge. And the reason why I say that is because I stayed within the community, the blind community, I mentioned, right? ATRC serves people with disabilities. Um, GDH serves people with disabilities. Um, then my internship that I applied for as well, um, for my practicum in school. They also ended up, they serve people with disability, with not with blindness or vision, but they serve a different purpose, a different sector of a disability community. Um, so when I the and then of course my fellowship that I had with the university, I was the only blind student there. But that being said, um, my professors and the professors that I was working with, uh, they're university professors. They look at your grades, they look at your work ethic. They see who you are as a person in the classroom, and when you speak to them. So really, your disability doesn't really matter to them because it's about your work ethic and what you can do. So again, it's a university project, right? So you're kind of in now the only place where um, I kind of had to expand this once I was on the job, like once I was at my practicum, for the university was then I am put in with 10 to 12 other students who are all sighted, and I'm the only blind person. So now you're put in the situation in my fellowship at the university, that how do I work with these people? These people don't even know who I am. They never seen my face before. So you have to introduce yourself um, to a new group of people who don't even know what blindness is. Don't even know what they may have they may have an idea of what blindness is, but just what the media may say and what they may read in books and in other forms of media. But they may not have firsthand experience. So you're their firsthand experience. So when you integrate yourself into these workspaces that you may be the only blind person, you need to advocate for yourself, but you also need to educate people around you and tell them, like, you know be very don't be rude about it. Don't if they have questions, don't correct them. Their language. I think that's one thing you need to make your mind is don't correct their language right away, because you don't know who they are. You need to just go past that for a moment and explain you explain your disability. Tell them what you can see, tell them how you work, explain to them, give them details about your workflow. How do you do your day-to-day routine? Of course, if they ask, don't give information without without the questions coming up, in conversation. Just, make it come naturally. And over time, as they work with you, they'll see your work ethic, they'll see how you work, um, and they respect that.
I would imagine that these accommodations and the amount of technology available to you wasn't as advanced as it is today when you were first starting out and when you were in school. So, what kind of technology did you have access to then, and what have you been able to add over the years?
I remember when I was a kid, I had this big cassette tape player, um, you know, and we went to the library for the blind, you know, as you all go to, and you would rent the cassette tapes, and there'd be this box full of maybe 6 to 8 tapes, and they'd be labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's because um, you couldn't fit. Back then you couldn't fit. Because when you did a voiceover, you can't. The tape wasn't long enough, or the technology wasn't there to have it all in one tape. It's not big enough, right? So in order for them to put it on tape, they had to have 5 or 6 tapes, or more, to accommodate the whole book. When you would do your reading, just reading the casual books. So that's where I came from. You know, and then of course CDs came along, like I said, um, and then Victor Reader streams came along, and I had one of those. Um, and then your iPhones and your smartphones, those things came along, and then those things made things so much easier. You just have everything on your phone. What is you're not holding any third party devices, anything, every just nowadays a lot of you guys can just go to Audible, or the library for the blind has, you guys have your own streaming services, and there's so many uh, other free services that the public libraries offer for audiobooks, that you can either get an app on your phone for today that required a physical device back in the day, a proprietary device from the library. Um, so I think that's reading has, the way we read and listen to books has changed a lot, in that sense. Um, and now let's say, going back to your CCTVs, like I said, I had a dedicated desk on wheels that had my CCTV on it. and that either was in the front or the side of the room, depending on the layout of the classroom. Um, and That's how it went. And what would happen is I would have an assistant that would come, that would work with me in school, and not, in a consolidated classroom, right? I was considered mainstream, so I'd go class to class, like a lot of you are going as well. So that table was on wheels, and so because it had all of my equipment on it, it had to go to each classroom that I went to, my English class, my science class, my history class, so on and so forth. Uh, that things were like that. But in today's age, you can just have your CCTV, like a camera, right? Because it comes in a camera now. It's like USB. You plug it into the USB port on your laptop, and it's like, I guess, you can stick it in your bag and go, right? I have one of those. The Freedom Scientific, some other companies, they all have cameras that like just fit in like a bag and you can just take it, right? I have one of those now too. It's just USB powered, um, or you can plug it into an external monitor. Um, I think that technology came kind of when I was in high school, going into college. So, at least it started out that way, at least. So yeah, I think that technology has really evolved and changed.
What would an average day be like for you at work?
So my day to day job is basically helping people, right? Touching technology, every day, different technologies. Um, at help desk, your customer service for the employees. You talk to everybody in the company, literally, right? Everybody from the security guard that is outside the buildings to VPs, right? That's that's the range of people that I speak to, on a daily basis. Supporting their needs, right? Um, that could be from, okay, I got a new computer. I need help setting it up. To, hey, my computer is isolated. I need to get back on a network. Can you help me to get back on network? I've been out for X, Y, and Z months, and I need help getting updates so my computer can be compliant with their security policies. Um, to say, hey, I'm a new hire. Today's my first day. I need to get my equipment set up. Can you help me do that? To, hey, I got a new phone, or I do have a phone. I would like to put my corporate email on my phone. Can you help me with that? To then sometimes we get security alerts saying, hey, we need to keep it. So that's kind of my daily job is, right, is helping people with their technical needs, answering their questions. So making sure that they can do their job, um, as efficiently as possible, so the company can keep working and earning monies. Right? It's all about efficiency, right? Um, so in my job, yeah, you just think, okay, I'm IT help desk, but if you really think of my job, it's not just about helping that one person and fixing his problem, because if I can't resolve that one person's problem, that means that team that he or she is a part of is not going to be efficient and functional, and in turn, the product or the project they're working on is going to get behind, and therefore the larger company is going to not be able to release a product um, uh, or deliver on their promise to a customer, on time, right? So when you think about my job, you think about an IT help desk, but when you look at the big picture, you're kind of that backbone of the company, right? If someone's computer goes down, if they're not able to communicate with a stakeholder or uh, a colleague of theirs, um, then projects get delayed, and then when projects get delayed, there's money. That means projects your projects are already financed, right? You have projects where they have budgets. That means um, how are they gonna spend their monies? How is the company gonna allocate monies to these projects if they get delayed? That means if they don't get finished and they don't get done. So if you think about my job in the big picture, it's really about keeping the company running efficiently. It's making sure that the employees of Amazon um, and of our contractors keep working to keep the wheels turning.
If you were talking to someone with a visual impairment who wanted to have the same job as you, what advice would you give them?
Honestly, number one advice I'd give to you is find out what you want to do. Who are you, right? What are your interests? I think that you need to find what you're interested in, and once you find that, you need to look at how are you going to get there. Write down how you're going to get to your goal, right? What education do you need? What level of education and what level of education do you need? What certifications do you need to look at and and get to get those to get that job or be in that role? What Also look at where you want to work. Do you want to stay in Hawaii? Do you want to expand your horizons and maybe go to the mainland? Maybe move to an internationalist, work internationally. Where do you want to where do you see yourself working? Do you see yourself working in a corporate environment like I am, working at Amazon, like in a big environment? Or do you see yourself working um, maybe in a smaller nonprofit, or maybe a smaller company? Or do you see yourself working in the government sector? Um, you know, where do you see yourself working, right? So you could kind of think about that as well. Um, so that's the kind of advice I would give to you. Think about where you want to be, think about what career path you want to take, and where you and what steps you can take there, what education you need, what certifications do you need, and what experiences do you need as well. Do you need to get and how are you going to get those? How are you going to get those experiences? Like I said, volunteer work, talking to friends, looking for internships. Um, you know, if you're in school, look at fellowships. Um, putting yourself out there, just applying for jobs. But yeah, that's kind of the advice that I'll give you folks. So, if you guys have any questions or advice, you guys can reach out to me. Maybe if I give you my email address, you can maybe put that out there and give them the email address. So if any of the students are interested in technology or in tech, um, I'm more than happy to kind of talk with you folks. And I think part of my goal too is for me is to be that leader for you folks, right? To be that person you can see. Okay, um, I'm blind, he's visually impaired, I'm visually impaired. It doesn't matter, but you can go anywhere in the world, and um, that's kind of one of my goals in life is to keep making myself a better person and to move to break barriers for myself, right? And if I can do that and I show that to others, and people learn from that, I think to me that's the fulfilling thing is if I can teach people how to do that and they learn from my experiences, my triumphs and and when I fall down and they learn from the good and the bad. I think that we can just make this community a better place. So I really appreciate your time and thank you for having me on this podcast. So I'd be happy to speak with your students, and I'd be happy to share my email with them and whatnot, and we can keep in touch.
As we draw to a close with this episode, I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed your visit and found useful information. We welcome your feedback at guidedogsofhawaii.org. It would be great if you would visit us on our social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. You can find us by simply searching for Guide Dogs of Hawaii.